All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Peekskill's informational meeting regarding the Community Choice Aggregation Program. My name is Jessica Youngblood, and I'm here tonight with representatives from Westchester Power. We have Virginia Steinberg and Jenna Munson here with us, and we also have Ines, who's our translator for this evening, should anyone need that assistance. And they'll be giving an in-depth presentation as well as a Q&A session and platform that relates to Westchester Power's energy supply program. Since some of you may have previously seen a similar presentation at a council meeting or a Conservation Advisory Council meeting, or possibly attended one of the numerous outreach events that Westchester Power has hosted here in the city, this may be a refresher for you. Also, for those of you who may have not seen it, this is your first time, so welcome. For those who aren't familiar with this program or haven't yet heard it through one of our many outreach platforms, the Community Choice Aggregation Program, or CCA for short, is a community-based bulk energy purchasing program that's intended to lower electricity costs and selects the renewable energy for your electricity supply. This program generally applies to residential and small business customers and really gives municipalities the opportunity to choose a locally derived energy source as an alternative to a state-mandated utility for your fixed-price electric supply. And over the past 8 months, the Common Council has been considering this program. They also passed legislation last summer that enabled such a program to exist in the city, but has not yet signed on with a supplier. And right now, the Common Council is evaluating this program, and they're considering its adoption for Peekskill residents and small businesses. Before the council is also the option for them to consider selecting a supply option of 100% renewable energy. So in closing, Westchester Power is really bringing this opportunity to the city of Peekskill as our community at large is really seeking to become more resilient and more sustainable. And with that, I will pass on the microphone to Westchester Power for your presentation.
Hi, my name's Virginia Steinberg, and that's my colleague Jenna Munson. I should know her name by now. And thank you for coming out. It's a cold, dark night, and I'm sure it took a lot to even put your coat on and come out, so we really do appreciate this. As Jessica began, the program that we're going to be talking about specifically is the Westchester Power Program, which is a CCA, which is Community Choice Aggregation. And that's important because it does indicate in its name that this is a choice that every community makes to be part of a program, aggregation being a fancy word for bulk, kind of coming together to come up with a program for your power. Just to step back a little bit, we're going to be speaking specifically about Westchester Power, but I want to give a little bit of background in terms of who we are as an organization, and that is Sustainable Westchester. We are a membership organization, and 43 out of 45 municipalities are members, plus the county itself. So that means we've got 44 members who all come together, and the idea is that we work with and on behalf of these communities, these villages, these towns, and these cities to come up with programs that promote sustainability within the various places in which we live, work, and play to make them healthier and more vibrant. And Peekskill is a member of Sustainable Westchester, and therefore, of course, each of you is individually and collectively a member. Some of our programs you may be familiar with. Obviously, tonight we're here to talk about Westchester Power, but there's also the Solarize program, which is a campaign type of program, and Peekskill actually had one of those initiatives before. And we also have Community Solar, and I am actually one of the members, the original members of the Community Solar program that was launched. In the area of clean transportation, we have electric vehicle programs that promote, again, the purchase of electric vehicles, charging stations throughout municipalities, so when you go to shop, when you go into your bank, when you go to your train, you can plug your, hopefully, EV car in to be charged up. We also have a Heat Smart program, and that is a new program that was actually launched last evening through a collection of municipalities, Bedford, Poundridge, and Lewisboro, and that is a geothermal system, or air and heat source pumps that will heat houses now and cool them as well. I wish it was named slightly differently because it also does cool, as I keep reminding people. And of course, we do have recycling, because we're very concerned about zero waste in Westchester. And so we have a Recollect program that we have 11 municipalities that have signed on, and we're promoting composting as well. So Westchester Power, who are we, and what does this program do? I'm going to start by having you look at the graphic, the infograph on the right side of the screen. Your bill, whether you've really looked at it or not, consists of two components: the delivery and supply. Until 10 years ago, they were one and the same, but now it's being separated out. The delivery are, as that lovely diagram or the picture indicates, the poles and the wires, and they also handle the billing. So in Peekskill, that would be Con Ed territory. So your utility is not going anywhere. They will continue to service. I always like to say, if your lights go out, don't call us. I will be entirely empathetic, but there will be nothing I can do about it. So they will continue to maintain that. The other portion of the bill that is what we are administer, for lack of a better term, is the supply portion. There are suppliers that generate and provide the actual electricity that comes into your home through the utilities, poles, and wires. And that's the part that our program addresses. In Con Ed territory, we have a new contract that began January 1st and goes through until December 2020, till the 31st. And the supplier is once again Constellation. And then, of course, as I said, we are in the middle, providing all the services that are indicated there, and importantly, addressing customer concerns and questions and answers they would have. The program itself it's a fancy way of saying we're a bulk buying program. And we're able to provide that bulk and to negotiate so effectively because we take the 100,000 customers within the territories that we administer and are able to negotiate. Just like a BJ's or a Costco or a Sam's Club, they can get those prices because they have members that they can say, hey, look, I've got this audience who's your potential buyer. So we were able to do that in going to these suppliers and say, we have 100,000 people. What's the best rate you can get for us? What can you do? What are the best terms you can get for our customers? And so far, we've been able to maintain and achieve very favorable rates. And importantly, to be true to our name, Sustainable Westchester, a renewable, 100% renewable energy source for electricity. And so far, we have 26 communities within Westchester County who are participants in this program. So some important things to know about our program. We have been so thoroughly vetted. We've had more attorneys look and municipal leaders look at our program, look at the components, look at really how it's going to affect all the residents, both individually and small businesses within these communities. So it really has been looked over through and through. There are, as many of you are aware, I'm sure you've all received, I think it's hard to find anybody who is not, those ESCO offers, the calls you get, those unwanted, unprompted calls from folks, hey, we've got this great deal for you, and you don't pay attention, and 4 months later, the rates go up. Some of them are fine, but this is important to understand. The reason for this program and for running it on a municipal level is that it removes that disturbance to the individual, because we will not, Westchester Power and Sustainable Westchester will never give you a call and say, hey, we've got a great deal for you. This is a municipal benefit. It's a benefit to the residents and the businesses within the community. The rates are also highly competitive, and we'll get to that in a minute. And the benefit is this for folks who are trying to budget is that they're fixed and they're stable. That was a consideration that we made, is that we didn't want Con Ed rates go up and down. They fluctuate month to month. You and I can live next to each other and can have completely different rates based on when our meters are being read. This program removes that. It's a fixed rate, and it's fixed in this contract term that started January 1st for the 2-year period. And importantly, when we went out to negotiate with us and to solicit the bids from potential suppliers, the way we asked for and what we put in our proposal, the folks had to look at the suppliers. We worked out the average Con Ed rate for the prior 12-month period to when the bidding process began. And we said, here's the lowest, here's the average price for Con Ed territory for that period, for the 1 year period. You need to come in below that in order to be considered for our program. Putting all the other terms aside, you need to come in below that. So that's very important, because then you're getting a price that is lower than the the prior 12-month average. The other factor that we were very concerned about was coming up with an affordable renewable energy option. Oftentimes when folks would go out individually, or even if you were to call the utility and ask for 100% renewable electricity supply, you would find that it's significantly higher. So this came up with a really attractive rate, and I will get to that in a minute. We also have local presence, and that's something that's a great benefit for residents who can just pick up a phone. We are in Mount Kisco. So in developing this program, we live and work here as well. So we know, in different towns, there's a little bit of self-interest here too. We want to make sure that we are in a region that's providing us with good terms and a renewable energy source that's reliable. And then we do events like this. We do the community outreach. We advocate for the communities. One of the benefits to being the first CCA in New York State is that we can have a different kind of a dialogue with Albany and with the Public Service Commission in terms of how it should look for New York State, how it should look for Westchester, and that is really a benefit to the residents and the businesses. And then, of course, ultimately what we're all looking to do is come up with a future that is highly sustainable and that will provide us with a healthy environment in which to live. So here is a slide that just lists the various municipalities, the 26 members in our organization. There are 21 in Con Edison territory and 4 in NYSEG territory. The brown indicates that they have opted for basic supply, and the green indicates that it's 100% renewable. I should point out that Lewisboro, we just found out, has gone green. So we're happy to have one more municipality on the side of renewable energy. The NYSEG and they're in NYSEG territory, and that was a contract we just negotiated, and it's being signed and going through that process right now.
Will that affect the other ones, any of the others up there, like Mount Kisco?
Mount Kisco is Con Ed territory. Greenberg had originally gone for green, and then they changed. So there are only 2 municipalities in all of Con Ed territory that are the basic supply. Everybody else went renewable. And in NYSEG, we're likely to have 3, I believe, of the 4 that will go, no, 4 of the 5 that will opt for renewable there as well. So we're making progress. A lot of folks, and I think this is an important point because I know as Peekskill considers this, a lot of folks at the beginning weren't sure. We weren't sure how this would look. So some people adopted, some leaders adopted a little bit of a wait and see. Some opted for the basic supply because they thought, well, I'm not sure if I should be making these decisions. But when you consider that the renewable energy, we're talking about the health of the communities in an age where you've got increased asthma, you have all these bad air, alert days. It's really important to start understanding that the difference is no longer even that fraction of a penny difference, but it's really about the long-term viability of the environment in which we live. So getting to that point, in the 26-month period leading up to September 30th of this past year, we calculated that we saved customers throughout the Con Ed territory $15 million, which again, it's a big number. It means a few $100s a year for individuals, but importantly as well, to us, what's really significant is the 380,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions, the CO2 that has been avoided. And that translates, to kind of bring it down to a more tangible level, if every individual had one of their cars that was an EV for 1 year, that's what that would do. So think about the 2, car households and so forth. The impact is quite significant. So let me get to the contract terms that we have recently negotiated in Con Ed territory. One of the things that we're really incredibly proud of is that we negotiated a rate, residential rates, that are lower than the Con Ed 2015 average. So think about that for a second. Through the end of 2020, you will be paying rates that are below the 2015 average for your electricity supply.
Can we ask questions now, or do you want to hold them?
If you could hold them to the end, that would probably, I may answer them, and if not, I'm happy to loop back. Now, why, I don't know about you, but I don't know, I always tell people, I don't know of anybody who's paying, I can't think with anything I'm paying for that I purchase or that I own that is less than it was 5 years. For the duration, it's below that 5-year mark. It's just incredible to me that we were able to do this. Interestingly, too, is that we were able to really narrow the difference between basic supply and renewable to a fraction of a penny, which equates to about $1 or $2 if you have the 900 kilowatt home, $1 or $2 a month. And then what's really, really, really meaningful for a lot of cities like Peekskill is that we were able to negotiate a commercial as well as a residential rate, and they are the same. So what you see up there is that the residential standard, so that's a basic mix, I'll get to that in a second, is 7.71 cents per kilowatt hour. And for a fraction of a penny, 0.0025, dollar sign in front, we're able to do the renewable supply, and that is 7.96 cents. It's important as a little caveat is that when, hopefully, Peekskill joins the program, we will need to reconfirm these rates because they are, in fact, based on supply and demand, and we'll have to see what the market can bear at that point. But we're extremely hopeful that we will be able to get the same terms for Peekskill. So I keep throwing around these terms, renewable and basic or standard supply. What it means is that the green supply is 100% renewable. The former contract, for those of you who may have been kind of in this loop beforehand, had us purchasing wind power from around the country, Oklahoma, Texas, or whatever. This new contract, we were told by the PSC, the Public Service Commission, it's wonderful to clean up Texas and Oklahoma. Let's bring this closer to home. Let's clean up the air in New York State. We want you to have renewable power that's New York State generated. So as many of you may know from driving around the state, there aren't a whole lot of wind farms. They're popping up here and there, but there is a lot of water. So what we have been able to negotiate is our renewable power is 100% hydro generated. Basic supply, just as a contrast, is your traditional mix, and that has the fossil fuels. It has the coal, oil, gas, nuclear, and has a very, very small percentage of renewable energy as well. Regardless of the choice that's made, these contract terms will be dictated for 2 years, and they're the contract that we negotiate with the supplier. So from January 1, as I said, 2019, through December 31, 2020, that's the contract term. So for 2 years, this stays the same. Nothing will change. Many people wonder, well, where do I fall in this? Am I eligible? And the simple answer is, in many cases, yes. The folks who will automatically fold into our program, for whom the default will change. Before, right now, you move into Peekskill, you have Con Ed. Whether you like it or not, when you move in, your delivery, of course, will always stay that way, but your supply comes from Con Edison. So what will change is that the default will shift to Westchester Power, and the folks who will immediately fold in are 2 different rate classes. EL1, which are your individual homeowners, condo dwellers, apartment dwellers, co-ops, etc. And then the EL2, those are the small businesses, the small shops, the small businesses, offices, stores, etc. Peekskill in total, between those 2 rate classes, has about 7,000 folks that will automatically fold into this program. The way you can tell which rate class you are in is if you look at your bill, and I put a copy of an old bill that's there, and you can see under your electricity charges, this should be on your page 2 of your current Con Edison bill, it'll have the rate class there. I put an arrow indicating, and EL1 is residence or religious, and of course EL2 is the other classification. So there are a few things that change. A lot of it remains the same. Your bill, you're still going to get one bill. It's going to still be from Con Ed. And they will still, as I said earlier, be the folks who maintain the poles, the wires, etc. The delivery of what's coming to you. What changes is that you'll see mention on the bill, and we'll get into that in a moment as well, of ESCO. They didn't know what to call us, so they put ESCO, which is a fancy way of saying it's an alphabet soup, but it can be either electricity supply or energy service charges, whichever you want to call it. And that will state ESCO, and it'll have a line item for that, and that is the electricity supply. So you do need both. Some people call and say, whoa, I'm being double charged. No, it will still be stated that way. So what will change, it will state that the power is coming from an ESCO, and it's Westchester Power, and the supplier themselves will be listed on your bill. So on the third page of the bill, it will say, in Con Ed territory, Constellation New Energy. Well, I will review this again, so I'm just kind of dropping it out, but we'll go over the how to read your bill in a quick second. So that's really the only change, is that your bill is going to change. You will have the advantage of a fixed rate. So on your bill, and this is important, if you look at the electricity supply or anything related to the supply and the number changes, call us, because that means that something's happened. Because otherwise, for the next, until the end of December 2020, your rate should be the same consistently throughout. So let me go through where Peekskill is specifically in this timeline. Peekskill has already taken some very important steps to ensure that this is an option for the city. The first is that they have already received the Public Service Commission approval to participate in the program. And we have gone ahead, Westchester Power, and through Sustainable Westchester, we have gone ahead and gotten the data totals. That's why I was able to tell you that you have about 7,000 accounts that would be folded in. Should Peekskill say that they want in and go ahead with this, we will reconfirm the rate with the supplier to make sure that there's ample supply for them at the rate that we have negotiated for everybody else so far. Then the council authorizes approval for the actual contract signing, and they make the decision right then and there, renewable or basic. And of course, we're hoping for renewable. And then the supplier will notify the eligible Peekskill account holders. And the way that they will do that is a letter goes out, a notification letter goes out. And as much as we would love to make this really short and simple, it's the utility, and it's never quite as simple as we would like to have it. But a letter will go out, and it will importantly have the city seal on it, and it will have reference to Constellation. So you're knowing the supply, it has Westchester Power mentioned in there, and very, very importantly, it has our number listed there, our email and our number, and call us. We have people say, what do I do with this letter? And we walk them through and say, you don't have to do anything. You're fine, you're good. You want to be in the program, tear up the letter, throw it out, you're in. It's kind of like a club that you don't have to do anything to get in. It's very easy. So that's important. And then from the time that that letter goes out, we refer to them as notification letters. From that time, there's a 30-day opt-out period. So if some folks have whatever reservations about, some people just don't like change, and we can accept that, and they just want to have Con Ed and they're fine with the fluctuating rates or whatever, or they don't want to, they want to go for the other option than what the city has selected as the default option, they can do that. Otherwise, they're folded into the program. And then they're enrolled as of the next meter read. And then we take any calls. And at any point during this process, we can take calls from folks and help explain the process. I want to make one other comment, and that is that even after the opt-out period ends, because that sounds very kind of ominous in a certain way, like you can come in and out of our program at any point without penalty. Most ESCOs we find have fees attached to them if you have a contract. and they can be rather exorbitant. So I'll get to that a little bit later as well. But you can opt in, opt out, opt up. You can make all sorts of changes within the program if you choose to do so, and it's not going to cost you anything. So we like to emphasize that this program really is community choice. And so we want to reinforce repeatedly that customers do, residents and businesses have choices here. First of all, the city, while it chooses the default, it will choose the default option, whether it's renewable or basic. And as I stated, 19 of the 21 Con Ed munis have chosen the 100% renewable option. And then the residents are automatically enrolled, so they don't have to do anything because they don't have to take any action. They don't need to worry about anything. And then at any time they can opt out, or they can switch their energy supply option as they see fit with no fees, unlike many ESCOs. So I wanted to put up the slide, the next slide, which addresses what have been some recurring questions and address them kind of right up front. One is there are a lot of folks who have budget plans for their electricity supply. In Con Ed territory in particular, we found that this was seamless. As a matter of fact, I frankly didn't even realize that there was such a thing because there were no problems. If you have a budget plan now, you're going to continue to have a budget plan. And it just gets adjusted somewhat, and they figure it out, and nobody has to do anything. You don't have to worry about that. You will still be able to maintain that plan. So the other question I keep referring to, ESCOs. Well, if you have an ESCO now, and there are some folks, particularly those who were concerned and were advocating for renewable energy, some of those folks went out a decade ago and got renewable energy through another supply company. If you have that now and you have a contract with them, you will not be getting the notification mailing. The folks who default and are switched into our program, are automatically enrolled into our program, are those who have straight Con Ed for both the delivery and for the supply. If you have an ESCO now, and you have any questions about it, or you say, hey, and we've gotten some calls recently, I want to switch to your program, call us first. We really encourage people to do that because some ESCOs will have contracts. In some cases, if your contract was up in January and you're just month to month now, you may be able to exit without any penalties. But we want to make sure, because some of these penalties can be $150 to $200, and that's a lot of money. And we will work people through that program so that your ESCO contract can end and you can move right into the Westchester Power program. But we really encourage people to call us because we understand the language a little bit more and know what to ask, and we actually give the folks kind of a script of 3 or 4 questions. Make sure you cover these before you switch. What if I change my mind? You're never locked into our program. You can come and go as you see. This is supposed to be a benefit, and wouldn't be a benefit if it was restricting you. So you can come in and go out. We don't encourage day trading kind of approach, like, oh, this month is cheaper, this much is higher. That's probably not going to work out well for you. The wiser folks who developed this program long ago determined that if we set a low rate as we have that's prior to the 12-month average, the odds are pretty good that we're going to be able to save some folks a little bit of money. And it's turned out to be like $1, actually, yeah, about $3 to $5, I think, per account on the supply side. So you're never locked in, but we certainly encourage you to take a slightly more long-term view. If the Con Ed rate is a teeny bit, if you happen to hear, which it's also very hard to come up with an apples to apples comparison. I don't know how many people have actually gone on to the Con Ed site, but within our program there are charges and taxes that you are not assessed by being in our program. Merchant function charge, there are certain billing and processing fees that are eliminated in our program. So if you were to go on to the Con Ed site, you'll see this number, and it may or may not look about in line with ours, or may even look a teeny bit less, but then you start adding these other fees that you're assessed and charges, and you realize it's not a fair comparison. Again, if there are any questions, we walk people through this. Okay, what is the contract term? You have no contract. That's the beautiful part. We have the contract. So we've negotiated on your behalf, and you can just take advantage of this program. If you want to switch in or switch out, that again is up to you. But the contract that we have negotiated expires December 31st, 2020 in Con Ed territory. So you don't have to worry about contracts or anything else. You're not beholden to any of that. That's our job. Will you receive an additional notification in the mail? We like to limit the mailings that people get because somehow every time anything goes out, because it's so regulated, it ends up being a little bit scary, a little bit kind of confusing. You'll get the notification letter about the program. Should anything changes occur, which usually does not happen, you won't hear from us. You're in the program. You get to just enjoy the benefits. In summary, what's important is that we have a local presence. We're in Mount Kisco. We live and work here. We do outreach such as this. We do educational programs. We've gone to libraries, to senior centers, to other community organizations. Wherever a municipality needs us to be, we're happy to be. And we take these personalized calls all day long. And trust me, when 7,000 to 8,000 Peekskill residents, we are ready. You leave a message, we're going to call you back. It's not a call center elsewhere around the world. You're getting a phone call from Mount Kisco. You can come by our offices. They're not luxurious, but you're welcome anytime. And then finally, we will help everybody understand their bills. We really walk through, and we've done this a lot recently because we find that every time we do it, we learn something, and the folks, the residents and the business people learn a little bit more about what our program means and how they can take best advantage of it. So I'd like to, before I take questions, do the one part, which is the how to read your bill, because I think that's an important part of what we do and what it addresses a little bit about what's going to stay the same, what's going to change. So I'm not going to go through quite the entire blurb, but Jenna, do you want to? Yeah, Jenna's going to hand out the hard copy of what I'm presenting, because it occurs to me you may not be able to see it as well. Jenna, can you give me one? As Jenna goes around to hand this out, I made reference earlier to the fact that your bill, and this is actually the pictures that are here, I believe are, the top may be these are the second page of your Con Ed bill. On the first page, you'll notice that it says ESCO electricity supply charges, and then right underneath it, it will say Con Edison electricity charges. So we get folks who will call up and say, well, I'm being double billed. Can you eliminate one of these? Mm-hmm. And I tell them, well, you've got two options. You can either have the mechanism, the means by which the power gets to your house, or you can have the power, but there's going to be a disconnect. You need both. So the ESCO supply charges refer, unfortunately, to our program, and that will be one line item. And what's important about Con Ed, it's important to understand, Con Ed is a utility steeped in 40 years of doing things a certain way. So getting them to change line items, to change language is particularly challenging. So there are inconsistencies, and this is what we typically have to go around and explain to folks, in the language that is used throughout 2 to 3 pages of a bill. So you'll see on the first page, actually I believe that may be the first page of the bill, it's ESCO supply, electricity supply. And that number should ultimately line up to the number, you'll see number 7. So, and 7 should be on your third page of the bill. So you have this language that's somewhat confusing that you're actually dealing with in some cases now. I don't know how many of you have actually looked at your Con Ed bill, but I find them confusing even before this program. But you'll have this, which indicates that there's a supply that's coming from one source, and Con Edison is the entity that is maintaining the infrastructure. Then you look at your electricity charges, and that total is going to be the delivery charges, including the taxes and so forth. So you'll see this, and it's probably best if you take a look at this more closely on your own, because you'll see how this lines up. And then there's a small section that indicates number 4, your supply charges. And that's where you'll see reference to the actual supplier, Constellation New Energy. And that will align the amount of that is what you see for ESCO supply charges, number 1, and number 7, where it says your electricity supply charges. The number 5, we try to help people look at this because number 5 has your monthly electricity. Oh, I got used to doing this. Electricity usage cycle. So you can track how some people say, well, wait, my bill seems really high. And we'll have them look at the graph. Oh, that's why it's higher for whatever reason. Oh, thank you.
I'm just trying to highlight that.
So that's helpful, again, for folks who want to learn a little bit more about how things... Oh. Oh. Good. Okay.
Here you go.
All right. Is this on now?
Press the bottom left button.
Is it on now? No.
Do this one?
Flashing green, but it's not doing it.
This one?
Okay, good, this is working. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this is where things get a little bit more confusing for folks. And I should emphasize, we're going to come back and do this again if Peekskill joins the program. This is not the only time you're going to see us, whether you like it or not, because we think it's important that everybody understand what they're going to be getting and what it means for them. So here you've got ESCO supply charges. You see it's $104. Now these rates, I should say this is an older poster. We have a different rate now. But it's important here. This number matches up with this number. They're called different things, but you know where to look for where the numbers are. Then the Con Edison electricity, this refers to, this is what gets confusing. Electricity supply charges and electricity charges. This is delivery. It has nothing to do with the supply itself. And that number you'll see aligns the 186 to what's the number down here at the bottom of page 2. So then you have the electricity charges, which is the delivery, and the total delivery here, and that's this entire section refers to delivery, except for this little bullet here, this little arrow that talks about supply, and they mention it, but they don't add it, put any numbers in. Then the okay, did the 4 here, 5. I was talking about how the graph is. This will give you this gives you the last year's comparison. The shaded bar is going to be last year's, correct? 12 months. They go over and they indicate that. So if somebody's bill goes up and they say, but wait a second, I thought I have a fixed rate. Well, yeah, your kilowatt per hour, the rate per hour stays the same, but your usage went up. So that's something to keep in mind. And it helps, we found that some folks don't realize that maybe they left an air conditioner on a lot, or they left something on and they were away for a while, and they start realizing the impact of that on their utility bill, and they take certain efforts, make effort to conserve a little bit more and remember to turn things off. And then finally, this mentions here the electricity supplier, and in this case it will still be Constellation New Energy, and then this has the actual rate as I mentioned above. So we walk people through this because it shouldn't be this hard, but it can be. It's confusing. So again, we come back and we will sit down with folks. We'll go through this exercise again, and importantly, we encourage people to bring their actual bills to us, and we'll sit down and go through the exercise, what they should be looking at, and we take it pretty much from there. And I think, Jessica, if you switch, oh, go ahead.
Some questions or answers that we'd like to clarify.
Use the microphone.
Yes. A couple of questions. What if I change my mind? Well, again, anytime, change your mind. Go for green, go for basic, come in and out of the program, whatever you want to do. We're here to support your choice. If you want to be in the program, wonderful. If you want help leaving the program, we'll help you do that too. And when someone calls our office, they're calling to speak with me or Virginia or a couple of the other folks who are in our office. So what you see is what you get. We're here to help you, really.
We're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Opting in, opting out, that just means that you're either joining or leaving the program. And again, as you wish, do whatever you like to do.
It's important to know as well that some of this a lot of it in fact can be done online. So if folks don't want to talk to us, or I just want to, they can go online. You can opt out. It's very easy. I should also mention on our website right now we do have Spanish language handouts. So some of the handouts, like the one that I handed out just now, is available in Spanish online and can be downloaded on the Westchester Power website. So, it's on the city website as well. That's right. So make use of all these resources. They're there.
Another question: what if I'm not a residential or a small business customer? We've been asked this question by small libraries, churches, synagogues, other houses of worship. That's fine. You're probably an EL1 or an EL2 classification anyway. So just give us a call, send us a copy of your bill, scan it, email it. We'll evaluate it for you and help you determine whether you are eligible for the program. Another question: what if my municipality chooses a different option than my preferred option? That's fine. The reason for a default in a municipality is so that your town or city can be a member of the program. There has to be a choice somewhere. So the city chooses a default. The individuals can do whatever they like. They can choose the basic or the renewable. We hope you'll stay with the renewable, but it's completely the individual's choice. And again, is there a cancellation fee? There's never a fee for the users of this program. What happens when the contract ends? Well, that's always a very interesting process for us in the office. It's nothing that the customer will recognize or even be aware of, but about 6 months before the contract ends, we start to get to work. We're looking at the marketplace, we're talking to suppliers, and we're going out there and finding out what the pricing will be or what it can be. We go out to a wholesale marketplace for electricity and ask for bids. That bidding process can be lengthy, but coming down to the wire, it usually results in very favorable terms, or it has the last few times. And we do the best job we can for the residents because, as Virginia said, we live here too. And we are participating in this program as well. So that's what happens behind the scenes.
Well, and also importantly, in both contract phases, and for both utilities, there was a benchmark that we set. So it's not just kind of like, hey, go out to the market, tell us what the best prices you can do. We dictate the bottom, the highest, the benchmark at the high point, what that rate is going to be, which is why, as I said earlier, in Con Edison territory and in NYSEG, we calculated the average utility rate that somebody would pay in those utility territories for electricity, the electricity supply portion, and said to any suppliers who wish to participate, regardless of what we dictated as what we came up with as the duration of the contract, but in terms of the rate itself, this is the highest, you have to come in below that. So we start with a very low rate to begin with and ask them to come lower. So we're really trying to keep it that way. Are there any questions?
I think that's the end of the questions on this sheet.
I had a question about, you said there's about 7,000 customers in Peekskill. Is that everybody, or?
Those are the account holders, electricity account holders. So there may be certainly a larger population, but that's how many electricity account holders.
So, and I think those are within the two rate classes. To the question earlier, there are instances where we have found that other rate classes, EL1 and EL2 are only, two of the many that Con Ed has, who contacted us and asked, hey, I want to be in this, how can I do this? And we will work with them based on other conditions. I'm not going to get into it right now, but other conditions, and they can also come in. But those are the folks that right now would automatically be enrolled in the program and would benefit immediately without having to do anything.
And then if the council votes to go ahead with community choice aggregation, how quickly is Peekskill going to be on board and be seeing
Okay, that depends on the timing, and that is dictated not by us, but actually by the supplier. So it could be for Peekskill as early as I think June 1st, the meter read after June 1st, or sometime after. I would say that June is the earliest that we would be able to do that. But again, I would be sure to coordinate. Obviously, we're in touch with the city the whole time, and anything that we would want to communicate would be posted on by us as well as by the city. They have been extremely helpful in posting everything, multiple, Spanish and English, to keep the city informed. So I would urge everybody to really take a look at the website.
And I have one more. I don't want to monopolize all the questions. So I already enrolled in the community solar program that's in Montrose through you, Sustainable Westchester Power.
Yeah, me too.
Does that, do I still get that?
Yes.
This doesn't
Yes.
replace, like 10% will still be?
Yes, yes. That also is a pretty seamless process. It would just be instead of paying Con Ed for the supply, now your bill will reflect that you were, paying Con Ed through their billing system, but you'll be part of our program.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How long will it take for Peekskill to sign up for this?
That is entirely up to the city council. There are some things I know. They wanted to make sure that the city residents and businesses were as informed as you can be. That said, we completely recognize, having gone through this now for 2.5 years, that there will always be people who missed, didn't look at the website or didn't look at the postings or the emails, etc. So as soon as the city council feels that it is an appropriate thing and that they feel we have done sufficient work in terms of outreach and communications, they'll make that decision. That is entirely in their hands.
So you can, in other words, benefit from both your program and then the one in Montrose. I think I'm signed up for that one too.
Yes, I'm in both. It's the beautiful part of the program is that it just adjusts a little bit how your usage. It's pretty seamless. So you'll still have the same procedure you have now with the community solar, and then your bill will still come from Con Ed for the remainder of the electricity supply and the delivery that comes through their network. Any other questions?
One other one here. You guys said that you give rebates for electric cars. Do you give any rebate for any kind of solar stuff? I know they have, I saw some light switches and stuff here on your brochure. I saw something.
Okay, most of those are separate programs that are run by either Con Ed or by NYSERDA, and that would be something that they would do. The rebates, to be clear about the electric vehicles, those are things that we negotiated with the dealer when we launched this program. So that changes as the vehicles are purchased, etc. And that's a separate program from the Westchester Power program. So that's why I wanted to make the point that Sustainable Westchester is all of these programs that feed into the long-term sustainability of communities, but they're all kind of interrelated, which is wonderful.
So we can just call you the first of the year to see which car. Feature in case we want
You
to
can
trade
give us
up.
a call and I will direct you as best I can, and if I have an immediate answer, I will give it to you. How about that? Yes?
The delivery charges that Con Edison charges for a given month, are they the same for the customers with Con Edison or with an ESCO?
The delivery, yes. You will always pay delivery based on your usage. So regardless of whether you use 900 kilowatt hours and you're in our program, or you use 900 kilowatt hours and you have your own ESCO, or 900 kilowatt hours and you're with straight Con Ed, you will still be paying whatever the delivery charge is that Con Ed has negotiated with PSC. Yes. Any other questions?
Do we feel any of these interpreted?
Oh, okay, that's important. So up on the screen we have the information as how to best, how to contact us.
How to reach us?
Yes, how to get a hold of us. So we encourage people. I always feel like we should somehow make the phone item big and bold and multicolored with little flashes around it. But call us. Really, that is probably one of the best ways to get us, because there are certain nuances about the billing process that it's just so much easier to work with people. We will actually have people take a picture of their bill and send it to us, and I will get on the phone with them and walk through it. So the number there is 914-242-4725, and you can call that. We're there during regular business hours, but we do, leave a message. We'll call you the next day. It's and let us know when the best time to contact you is. We're very flexible that way. Again, there are a handful of us who field these calls, and we're a not-for-profit, and we are very responsive, and you will talk to a human being. The other way is to email us, and again, you can attach a copy of your bill, which some people are fine doing, and that we are at info@westchesterpower.org, all one word, westchesterpower.org, info@, and then our address. Stop by, 55 Maple Avenue, Mount Kisco, New York, 10549. And our website, which I alluded to earlier because that has the Spanish language handouts and so forth and some materials, should somebody want to take a look at that, that is www.westchesterpower.org. Okay? And thank you, and again, stay warm.